Welcome back to Talking Dragon Age, the show where I talk about Dragon Age. Today we're discussing game mechanics. A lot of games try out mechanics that aren't used well or are just not great to begin with, and they get removed in the future. Dragon Age has had a pretty good record of including mechanics that are pretty good. I never used the tactics in Origins, but I know a lot of people did. I think with an updated combat system, it could be even better. I only sometimes used the tactical stuff in Inquisition, mainly when my companions were being stupid. A weird mechanic they used in 2 was the way you got ingredients for potions and whatnot. It was pretty silly, although the system for actually making them was really simple to use, and I do appreciate that. I didn't use the bombs or potions in Inquisition as much as I would have liked to. I think a lot of the time I just forget I have them. I think Inquisition probably had enough, but a wider variety would also be appreciated. Now, those are the little ones. I want to talk about some good and not so good mechanics, specifically in Inquisition, and how I think they could be used and or improved upon in the future. So, starting with a not so good one, enough of this stupid map fog bullshit. No! Get rid of it because it's stupid and it's dumb, and get rid of it and it's stupid and it's dumb, and no more. I'm done. Yeah, I say that, but I'm probably going to replay Inquisition. Just, oh my god, get rid of it. Even if it's just like the major icons and you have to explore to find the rest, fine, I don't care. Just get rid of the fog, you assholes. And speaking of exploration stuff, there was a perk in Inquisition you could get at the war table, and I'll talk about the war table in a minute, but the Forward Scouts perk, supposedly it reveals locations on the map, but all it really does is reveal logging stands and quarries. First of all, you only use a handful anyway to upgrade Skyhold, most of which you probably already found by wandering through the stupid map fog. And then after you get the Skyhold upgrades, they don't really do anything. So what the hell are these scouts doing out there? Let's try to imagine this. Right, they're walking along, maybe a group of like 3 or so, and one's like, hey, there's one of those glowing skulls up there, should we mark it down? And the other guy's like, nah, just leave it. They walk a little further, and someone's like, well, there's some wood over there, maybe we could set up a logging stand. Should we tell the commander? Nah, let's just mark it on the map so if the Inquisitor's interested, she can come out here and inspect it personally. And then on their way back, they're like, hey, here's one of those constellation things. I heard they lead you to treasure. Should we take care of it while we're here? Or at least mark it on the map? Nah, if the Inquisitor's interested, I'm sure she'll find it herself. I just imagine the Inquisitor looking at the map the scouts brought back, which was apparently an empty sheet of paper with 2 marks on it. And she's like, what kind of scouts am I hiring? Liliana, what is the meaning of this? It's ridiculous. I mean, even if we have to use in-game currency or points or something to get the maps, I will gladly pay it to not have to deal with this ugly, nonsensical map fog. Get rid of it! Now, I spoke a little there about those collectibles of the Astrariums and the Oculara. I have mixed feelings about them. On the one hand, I like the idea of having to find the Oculara not marked on the map, but then having the collectibles themselves be marked after you find it. I like having a thing you can do to reveal collectibles. The Batman Arkham games had some good mechanics for this, except there were way too many of them. On the other hand, there were a lot of shards, and some of them, I still don't know how I'm supposed to get to them. I just have to exploit the game's mechanics in really weird ways. If the gameplay was a little different or more refined, this may not be so bad, but I'll never know. I think the Forbidden Oasis is the worst for the shards, because it's so damn difficult to figure out where you're supposed to go in order to get where you want. If they had some sort of climbing mechanic, this would be fine. While I appreciate the fact that we can jump, Inquisition's gameplay still doesn't quite work in this vertical of an environment. That's not to say vertical environments are bad, on the contrary, I like them. I just want gameplay to be more refined to match it. That's another discussion, though. The Astrariums, I actually liked the puzzles, but they were difficult to find sometimes. And then sometimes the marked area where the treasure is was too big, and I spent way longer than I should have had to in order to find it. I'm specifically talking about the one on the Storm Coast. But something I've always found weird about both of these are the Venatori were investigating them. Specifically the Oculara, they themselves set them up. So why are all the shards still here? Why did they set up the skulls, but not take what they set them up to find? Now, the War Table. I really like the War Table. I think it's a great concept with some great stories that takes too long. Especially for how many there are. A lot of the time, I would log on, select a few operations to do, log off, come back a few hours later, and repeat until most, if not all, were done. Because I had absolutely no faith that if I went and did some side quests, they would all still be there when I got back. And the timers. Too long. Way too long. Most should have been less than an hour. Some of the big ones can go longer, and only, say, 5 in the whole game should have been like 4 hours. And they had the agents that you could recruit to cut down on time, and I wish this had been done differently. There was a mechanic in some Assassin's Creed games, starting with Brotherhood, where you could recruit people and then send them out on missions like the War Table missions. Main difference was it was either success or failure, not different outcomes based on who you sent. This mechanic was later cut from future installments for actually the same reason they put an anime villain in Mass Effect 3. That reason being the developers all lost their damn minds. But yeah, that Assassin's Creed thing. I would have liked to see the War Table handled a little like that. Like you have a set of agents for each advisor, and you can send those agents on their behalf, so you can do more than just 3 missions at once. I've always liked the idea of recruiting new people and sending them out to do stuff. And I think Inquisition was uniquely suited to do that. Though I realize Inquisition's development was kind of rough, and they probably didn't have time to flesh out the War Table as much as they would have liked to. I'm just spitballing here. The War Table was fine, just too long, and I hope it makes a return in some capacity in the future. Maybe it would be a little like the way they did the Apex missions in Mass Effect Andromeda, except expanded upon. It would also be cool if they had something like Mass Effect 3's War Assets, where you can see how strong our force is becoming and get some more lore along with it. I don't know, I like it. And if I get my way, take more inspiration from Assassin's Creed than Assassin's Creed itself seems to want to. But I'm sure the next game is going to be jam-packed with stuff as it is, so maybe it's just as well they don't include more stuff like that. Now, I want to talk a bit about combat mechanics. I've talked a lot about combat in the past, but there's even more I want to say in regards to how it works. They gave us the tactics menu in Origins, and tried it again in Inquisition. I never used the tactics in Origins, and I actually use it more in Inquisition, but still not that much. I say they should take inspiration from the original Dungeon Siege. See, I love games that let me play tactically. Although Dragon Age has the mechanic for it, I wouldn't say it actually lets me play tactically. Most of the enemies take too long to go down, and I only have 4 characters with 3 classes. Give me the ability to customize my playstyle more, like I talked about in my videos for classes, and maybe that would help. But the thing I really don't like is that everything feels too much like a game. You assign abilities and equipment so you can manipulate the enemy AI with things like threat level and fear. While that stuff is cool, I don't like being able to actually see that and be able to calculate that stuff. Fear from Fireball always lasts the same amount of time. Warriors can always challenge enemies to pull them away from other fighters. Like, cool, but I'd prefer the enemies to behave like actual people. Like, yeah, I can exploit the AI like I would predict the moves of real people, but I don't like knowing all these stats. Give me just enough room to doubt they're going to behave like I want them to. Now, I realize not everyone would like that, and to be honest, I wouldn't like it either with the current combat gameplay. A lot needs to be revamped in order for this to work. Now, I want to talk about leveling mechanics. In many games, I find myself wondering what is the point of leveling up if the enemies level up with you. It's weird that in Inquisition, they sometimes scale up, but other times they don't. By all means, include more challenging enemies as we progress, but I don't like to see common low-ranking enemies take the same amount of punishment when I'm level 20 as they did when I was level 5. Also, I've always questioned the logic of gaining new abilities because I gained enough experience points. Like, if I'm a mage who spent my entire life in the circle, shouldn't I start out with more spells? Actually, I feel like we should be able to choose the spells we start with, but anyway, I level up and learn a new spell such as Fade Step. How? When did I practice? Did I always know it and just forgot until I killed a bunch of demons? And this applies to all classes. Like, if I'm a career mercenary, why do I not already know how to swing my sword this particular way? And just because I've gained more fighting experience, why do I suddenly know how to hit the ground so hard I create a crevice in the earth that causes flames to erupt and then seals itself back up? I'm not letting this go, guys. Essentially, I'd like a more dynamic system for gaining new abilities, and there should be an explanation for why we don't know some of these moves already. So I'm imagining, instead of leveling up and gaining skill points in a menu, we actually have to speak to other people of our chosen discipline, like maybe trainers at our stronghold. And then we choose what we want to practice. Some will be locked off until we have more combat experience indicated by our level. So it's basically the same concept of unlocking new abilities as you level up, it's just another step of returning to your stronghold and talking to someone, rather than opening up your menu. I realize that's inconvenient and a lot of people wouldn't like it, but I think it's more immersive. Maybe for more advanced skills, we need to either purchase manuals or find them in the wild. Alternatively, we could have all the basic skills, but as we level up, they become more powerful and get add-ons. Like, we already know 2 basic ice spells, but the progression to more powerful spells means that by the time we get to Blizzard, it feels more like a natural progression of our power as a mage, rather than just suddenly knowing how to conjure a blizzard. And lastly for this episode, I want to mention a mechanic that drives me nuts. Okay, we're just going to kill these enemies here, there's some loot, and I want to kill this enemy over here, and... that's strange. I don't recall killing an enemy right where I was standing. Yeah, stop teleporting loot to me, it just confuses me. Unless they're in an inaccessible area, but don't put loot or enemies in inaccessible areas. So that's where I'll wrap things up. I may make more videos for mechanics in the future, but these are the big ones I wanted to talk about. Safe to say, if I didn't mention mechanics like the dialogue wheel, it's because they're either perfect as they are, or just don't bother me much. I could get real nitpicky, like companions disappearing when we're on a mount. This is just stuff I felt was really important to me. So let me know in the comments what you think of my ideas, and tell me what mechanics you'd like to see them add or improve upon in the future, or what mechanics you'd like to see go. So that's it for now, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to comment and like, and remember, Tala Nadas.